Welcome back to my channel, guys. All right, I've been doing some discussions around short-term rentals, and this is a follow-up to tell you how you can do a short-term rental even if you don't own property. It's totally possible. I'm going to tell you everything to think about while you are preparing to do this. So watch the whole video. Go ahead, subscribe to the channel, click the like button, and tell me what you think. So yeah, let's get started talking about this. If you don't know already, I manage short-term rentals from abroad, and you can pretty much do this anywhere in the world, and there's ways to go about doing it. I did a whole video talking about it, so if you haven't already, I'll leave the link in the description so that you can check it out at your earliest convenience. But today I wanted to talk about how you can manage short-term rentals even if you don't own property. Now, of course, the easiest thing to do is own a building, own an apartment, own something. You can rent out a room, a whole space, like whatever you want to do. But some of us aren't owners, right? And that's fine. We can still make money in the short-term rental space. Now, there's some key things that you need to consider before you just go and decide that this is something you want to do, okay? Now, first, you can rent an apartment, okay, that you don't plan on living in, and you can Airbnb it. It's not that simple. There's some things you definitely want to consider first. First of all, depending on the city that you're in, there are different city ordinances about who and how you can do this. Sometimes it has to be your primary residence, right? And you're like, well, if it's my primary residence, how am I going to do it? It doesn't matter. It just has to be something that you have to think about. So if you want to do this in multiple apartments, you have to do it differently in each apartment. So that's the first thing, is to understand the types of buildings that the city or state might let you do this in. So there are different types. For example, in Illinois, if you do not live in the building, in the property, the building has to be more than 4 units. So it's really kind of difficult, because once you start venturing out into more units, there sometimes becomes HOA issues, like different rules. So there's all kinds of things to consider even before you start looking into doing this. So know the rules of the city. That's first. Second, when you go into the situation and you decide, oh, I found an apartment, it's in a great location, I think it would be very profitable, I'm gonna go ahead and rent it and just do a short-term rental in it. Check the lease, boo. You might have a clause in there that says no subletting. So you need to approach the owner prior to doing this to make sure they're okay with it, because you could get sued. They could, it's lots of different things that might go wrong in doing a short-term rental when you're renting from someone else. Now, this way takes a lot of risk on you, right? So say things are slow and everything like that, you still have to pay your rent. So you might want to consider the upsides, downsides to your whole year, right? Because there's some periods where, bookings are going to be high, some periods bookings are going to be lower, and how you might have to change your strategy during different periods in time. So that's very important to think about as well, in the type of apartment that you're going to get. Can you rent it by room? Can you rent the whole apartment? Like, you really need to consider the possibilities, because when things are slower, you have to change your strategy. That's something to think about. Now, there's a different way you can do this that takes a little less risk on you. Now, you can approach an owner. Say you're looking through ads and you're like, okay, I'm really want to do this short-term rental thing. You're looking through ads, you see some places that good location, Now, you can approach the owner and say, hey, why don't we do a little partnership? I can manage your property on short-term rental and you can make more money than your rent. I'm going to take 20% for management. That means you manage the general communication, the fees, like whatever the case may be. With the rental, you take your 20% and then the owner gets the rest, right? So now you're making new income, but it's less risky because the owner has a stake in this as well. So if it doesn't get rented, it's slower, you just take your money, you give the owner their money. But there's going to be these periods and times where they're going to make so much more money than they would normally do on a regular renting. So that could be appealing to them. And you just have to put together a proposal that makes sense and something that allows them to see the numbers and see why they will consider working with you on this. Now, those are two different ways. The second way can be just as lucrative as the first, because what happens is you can start taking on more properties, you're taking your 20%, you have a safety net financially, and it can all work out. Now, the other thing you have to consider is you still have to furnish these apartments, right? Whether you are doing it with a partner, like the landlord or the owner, or on your own. So that's a whole nother expense. So you have to consider, okay, what is the upside, especially if you're working with a landlord. If you cannot help them furnish the apartment, or they don't already have furniture, this is something that could start being like, well, you know what, like the expense of all this. So you have to consider all of this in your business plan. All right, so go out there, you approach the owner, you have to have all of this information in your business plan. The furnishings, the general maintenance, what you are going to take care of. Because this is the thing, when you rent a property, it actually helps you not have to deal with certain aspects of maintenance, okay? So even if you rented it outright, when something goes wrong with the property, you contact the owner and say, hey, the sink's not working, or the laundry, something's wrong. Like whatever the thing is, the owner has to take care of it. So that's less maintenance. The property upkeep, the outside, you know, all of those things are on the owner and not you. So you save a lot of money not having to deal with some general property maintenance things. So it is actually a lot more lucrative. And I actually have done this, okay? So I have actually rented a whole nother apartment just to manage on short-term rental. And it's easier in some ways because you don't have to pay for some of these upkeep things, but you do have to work with an owner. So you do need somebody who's really flexible and somebody who is not too stringent on how you do things in the apartment, okay? So flexibility. And this is, of course, if you go ahead and rent it outright on your own. But those are like two different ways that you can start a short-term rental business without even owning property. If you have questions, go ahead, leave me comments, ask me questions. I can do a whole nother video on your question, or I can answer it in the comments if it's something quick and small. If there's anything else you want to know about short-term rentals and what you're gonna do, there are a couple other videos that you can see, or hit me up, ask me questions. I think that's it for now. A really quick, down and dirty way that you can start a short-term rental business, not owning property. A little less risk, depending on your risk tolerance. So that's it. Subscribe to the channel and follow me on Instagram. Did you come over and follow me on Instagram yet? I post all kinds of nice pictures. So I guess that's it for now. Ciao, ciao for now.